Okay, so this is the blue skin I bought. This is the VP100. This stuff is fantastic. It's airtight, watertight, weathertight, but it allows water vapor to pass through. If that looked like a pain in the butt, you're right. The next pieces should be easier. Now that I've got everything that's protruding nailed down, all the nails, and as much of the little wood chips and splinters as I can, I'm just going through, just kind of a quick brush off the loose junk, you know. It's pretty clean because it's been under here. No dirt is splashed on it, and not much dust has been created. But still just a quick wipe. Can't hurt. And then I'm also finishing by sweeping off where I'm going to put the primer on the concrete. And then I'm going to come back and vacuum up all this dust so I don't kick it up as I'm putting on the blue skin. But it doesn't have to be perfect, but you know. The more time you spend, the better it's going to end up, the less chance you have for holes. And when I press on that rock wool and we nail on eventually the strips and some wood, I want to make sure that that blue skin is nice and as intact as possible. Okay, I'm going to apply some of this primer. Probably make a big mess too. Doesn't have to be very thick. This stuff is pretty sticky. It's pretty much like glue. Ah. So I'll just keep going. I'll go all around the concrete here, and I'll probably just bring it just a little bit out and right over there onto the concrete so that I don't have a big green swash sticking out from the wall. I'll let this dry a little bit. It dries really fast. And while it's drying, I'll pre-cut some of the blue skin strips. I gotta go find the J roller. And I got another big roller, hopefully I can find, just to make it a little easier. And we'll get to start putting it on. Okay, so this is the blue skin I bought. This is the VP100. This is actually the residential version of the same stuff I put on the outside of the house, except the outside of the house was VP160. So I'm guessing the number refers to the thickness. But anyhow, the 160 is about, I think, $350 a roll, or $400 a roll almost. And this one's $250 a roll. So this is $500 in blue skin. So it's 800 square feet. It's more than enough to do this wall. Need a knife. Open this up. I got the 160 for the outside of the house because I didn't know how long it was going to take me to site it. And so I needed as much time as possible. So the thicker this is, the more it's going to stand up to UV exposure. And also just the thicker it is, the better it's probably going to perform on things like air sealing around nails and self-sealing. There you go. So what makes this fabric so great is, as it says, it's airtight, watertight, weathertight, but it allows water vapor to pass through. I'll look up the perm ratings so I can tell you exactly how much it is. But it does a great job of air sealing, but at the same time letting any water vapor that may make it into the wall cavity to be able to dry out the front as well as to the inside. So it should keep all the water and rain off the surface, but if moisture happened to come from the house, say, it can make its way out through the material. And I think the key to this stuff is they figured out how to get the adhesive to be super sticky, number one, but also to not obstruct the permeability ratings. And I think, for instance, wherever I put the primer, that's actually going to reduce the permeability rating, but that's why you want to use that stuff sparingly. Yeah, that's why this stuff is fantastic. It'll air seal and technically let water vapor breathe. Start over here. That looked like a pain in the butt. You're right. The next pieces should be easier. The idea with this stuff is to get it on with as few air bubbles and wrinkles as possible. No wall is perfect. All those little bows and bends and, it's not quite perfect. Those will give you some wrinkles and you can't do much about that. But like you can see over here, like a little wrinkle like this. But as long as you really have it pressed down good, when you put your nails in, pierce this, you still should get a good seal on it. But if you, see there's a little air bubble there. If I had to put a nail into an air bubble, there's a chance that you would get air leakage. It needs to be a good firm connection. Now when you're nailing it, chances are it's going to hold it down anyway, but it's best to try to really get it smashed down good the first time. And this stuff, it's a little harder to work with, this 100 rather than the 160, because the 160 is a bit stiffer. And so when you pull the backing off, it doesn't flop around as much. This stuff is a little floppy. But that means it's a little more willing to contour around little divots and stuff. So a little harder to work with in one fashion makes it easier to work with in another way. So all in all, pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna walk through the process of putting on a piece of blueskin. So first I measured the whole distance, and it's 14 feet. And then I added 6 inches just to wrap around this. And then I rolled out a piece that was 14.5 feet long and cut it. And then I made some marks at the top of where I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna let it hang down about 6 inches so that it can peel down onto that primered area. And I just made a couple of marks so that I could just make a quick reference as I go. So I'm gonna start over here, which is better anyways. This is needed to make sure I get this fully covered, and over there it can run a little wild. Oh, and before I put this piece on, I need to cut a small piece down there so that it can overlap. Small piece just like this. That's that little piece. I'll give it a quick roll. And pull off just a section like that. And try to get it level. And lined up with my mark. And we'll just roll the rest of this out without taking off the backing. Keep it tight. I'll bring it up to my mark here. And I'll just take a little nail and I'll just tack it. Come back up here. Smooth this out nicely. Yep, you see these little wood shavings, splinters that stick out. Those are the things you don't want poking little holes in. Pull it out. Don't have to do the whole thing. Just kind of not pushing real hard, just kind of making sure I'm smoothing it out and not fighting it too much. Just going on real nice. And for longer pieces than this, you would just add multiple nails. But this was just short enough that I could just get away with one nail. And if they're about 8 feet like that, I don't even use any nails. I just use my arms and kind of stick it on, peel off, the whole distance, and then just stick it on where it's level. So I kind of go from the middle, and you can see there's like a wrinkle here, and if it wants to stick, you just kind of push them out like that. Just push them straight out if you can. Get that nail out. Voila! Now, these corners here, they're pretty tricky. So what I like to do is I just kind of estimate where the corner is, put my finger there, and you have to cut these ones because it just won't. So I think I'll come down at an angle and see how it turns out. And kind of stuff it in there. I always try to stuff it in there before you go to the side. Get it all the way in if you can. One face at a time. Pull this out. And then here again on this type of corner. You just find, you don't have to go all the way in the corner. You know, the corner's down there. I'm going to come about ½ inch out. And then I'll just kind of push it. Let it tear a little bit to the exact point that it needs to be. Alright, now I'm just going to finish. I'm going to leave that for now. And I'll come back here and I'll work my way back down the same direction. Try not to let it catch on itself. Once it sticks on itself, that's pretty much it. Let's see if you dig your thumb right into them, kind of as you're pushing them down, kind of helps get rid of these wrinkles that inevitably form. It's kind of tough, but I'm trying to get this to wrap the bottom side of the ply, but it's not stuck too much to the wall. These three-dimensional surfaces can be a real bear. It's not too bad. And that way the air barrier is a lot more protected. If it was to just go straight down, it'd be real easy to just puncture a hole in it. So you really got to try to take the time, if you have like a situation like this where the sheeting does not match up with the face, you got to try to pull it in there and take that corner out, take that airspace out. And that is an ugly wrinkle. I'll try to just roll it out and really smash it down. Same with this, try to go straight down with them so you don't roll it to the side and just make it bigger. Trying to get in there. Oh, it's okay that it tore a little bit. I'll throw a bunch of sealant over the top of this. That should be pretty good. And as you can see, I just keep on rolling, and that's how you install a long sheet of blue skin by yourself. Next step, or I guess almost the last step of the blue skin, would be to apply sealant. And apply sealant to all the edges, all the terminations. Pretty much, I want to caulk every seam except for the ones that are good overlaps, like this. So if there ever was moisture in there, it can escape. This is a little more complicated. I'm just gonna put a ton in there. And I need to get my glove on and I'll just kind of smash all that. Okay. Anyway, before this sets up, I'm gonna smear all this in there and really seal the edge of this in the corner. Just kind of build it up in there, and then it'll all kind of melt together and become one with the wood. Okay, so what I like to do is just take a putty knife and it just smears it out perfectly. Kind of wipe in this direction so that the edge will kind of pick up any extra, kind of ramp it a little bit. Make sure I get it all nice and smooth in there. And this stuff, it's pretty cool as long as it's warm enough. Like it's probably about 40 degrees in here. That's warm enough for this stuff to kind of gel together and kind of just create one nice glob. Oh, look at that. Making a mess. Even with the anti-drip, these tubes drip. Before I did the whole house with just the hand crank, and I must have wasted so much just oozing out the end. These tubes were the worst for that. I'm just gonna squeeze all this in there. I still need to come back and tape the seam all the way down, tape it all real good so that no air can get in through this separation here. But I'm just gonna get these edges if I can. And then I'll continue on down the wall. I should have gotten this on a long time ago. Primer wasn't too bad as far as smell goes, but that that clear sealant that I'm using to seal this this Henry stuff. Ooh, that stinks. That'll get you high in no time. Hopefully this will take the fumes out of the air. Skylights are